Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, and I've got my semi-regular treat in store here for you. A quick conversation with Paul Finebaum. Yeah, the mouth of the South, the fellow on ESPN who tells it like it is, or tells it like he'd like it to be. Ever how you want to pigeonhole him, Paul Finebaum is never shy about voicing his opinion on things that have happened and things that might be yet to come. Uh, with that in mind, of course, I gave him a call because, as you'll hear in my quick conversation with him, seems like the buzzards have been circling Tuscaloosa for a week or so now, with the shocking. I think shocking, more stunning was the announced resignation, or excuse me, retirement. Big difference. Announced retirement of Nick Saban, and threw a lot of things into a tizzy, including the roster, before Alabama settled on Kalen DeBoer as its next coach. The man who bravely stepped up to follow maybe the greatest coach in college football history. I do believe that is the case, just based on results, if nothing else. But you know, Alabama players were given the right to jump into the transfer portal over 30 days from the moment Nick Saban retired, and they have done that. And three of them have springboarded, more like not really jumped, but springboarded to Ohio State. I mean, Seth McLaughlin, the starting center for Alabama this past season. Caleb Downs, maybe the best prospect the Southeastern Conference has seen in a while. Definitely a great player, and is only budding right now. Caleb Downs, safety, has jumped to Ohio State. And then, of course, over the weekend, Julian Sayin, the talented number one ranked quarterback of the 2024 recruiting process, who had signed with Alabama, went through a few bowl practices with Alabama, and was only about a week or two into his college career when suddenly Nick Saban was gone, and Julian Sayin decided he's gone too. He's from Carlsbad, California. Had an interview with his high school coach, Thad McNeil, earlier this week. I'm sure you saw it. I'm sure you caught it. Interesting. But I wanted to get the mouth of the South's take on what's going on at Alabama, but also from his vantage point, what's going on at Ohio State, having maybe, in my opinion, one of the great Januaries of all time of any college football program, and definitely in the realm, in the era of the Ryan Day era. Ryan Day needed to make some changes, both roster-wise and coaching-wise, and he has done that after the last two games of last regular season. Yeah, Ohio State went 11-2, but lost its last two games. Didn't play for a Big Ten championship. Scored only 3 points against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. Now he's got almost everybody who matters coming back on defense. An offense led by Emeka Egbuka of returnees, and then what he's done in the transfer portal is crazy, with Will Howard transferring at quarterback from Kansas State to Ohio State. Quinshon Judkins, maybe the best running back, one of the top three running backs for sure in the Southeastern Conference over the last 2 years, transferring up from Ole Miss. Right on down the line, Ohio State has strengthened itself. So without further ado, let's get to my quick conversation with one of my, I call him a great friend because he's always been great to me, and I try to reciprocate. But Paul Finebaum, man, always a pleasure to welcome on the, is it the mouth from the South? Do you have some other nickname going for you, Paul Finebaum, at this point? I mean, you're the all-seeing, all-knowing, the most quoted man in America. Which one do you prefer?
I'm good with all of them, Tim. If you could, just say that as many times as you would like.
Yeah, I'm gonna be calling your show a lot once I fully retire, man. I'm gonna have all kinds of
You're the only guy I know that retired, and I hear from you more now than when you were working.
Exactly. But I'll tell you what, I like the one I came up with when I sent you that note. I'm gonna be Anguished and Aniston. That's gonna be my nickname on your show.
Yeah, in case you folks have missed it, things aren't going that well in Tuscaloosa.
I was gonna say, you can spot Tuscaloosa now from afar by where the buzzards are circling. I mean, it's kind of an interesting. It is a moment in time, isn't it, from a national standpoint about what's going on with Alabama, right, Paul?
Yeah, Tim, we're old enough, not that we're old, of course,
Yeah.
to have lived through this already.
Yeah.
Beginning of my career and yours, we watched the end of Bryant. Now we're watching Saban leaving, and I thought it would be a interesting transition. I didn't realize it would reach DEFCON 1 in about a week.
Yeah. But I mean, I've always told people this. I know you understand this. I mean, it took Kirby Smart to finally get Georgia back together the way Vince Dooley had it. You know what I mean? From the standpoint of just not that other guys didn't come close, but I remember Bear Bryant leaving, and then Ray Perkins. Right on down the line, people forget that big dearth between Bear and Gene Stallings, and between Gene Stallings and Nick Saban, and this is a real wake up call for all those Nouveau fans, right?
Yeah, I was there at the end of Bryant. So from the end of Bryant in '82 to 2009, there was one national championship
Right.
at Alabama, and only 6 since then.
Yeah, yeah. So be careful what you wish for. I want to say this though. One of the teams that has benefited greatly, it looks like, from the Alabama. I'm not going to call it collapse. We'll see where I think that coach there is big time. I mean, the guy from Washington did a hell of a job, and I think he will get it going. But it's funny now with the transfer portal and NIL how quickly things can disassemble, right? I mean, and I think Alabama's a great example of that.
Yeah, I don't know how many people were really even aware that that window opened for 30 days, and I guess we are when it opens in late November or in December, but the fact that it opened in mid-January was a shock to the system. And Alabama's lost. I've lost track, but the names when they start showing up, like Caleb Downs, who was a freshman who was their best player last year. Kevin Steele said before the season he will be the best player, and in many ways he was.
Yeah.
And then you lose a guy like Julian Sayin, who I've heard compared to Bryce Young as an incoming freshman. And I know there've been a couple other guys left, but I haven't had to keep up with them. But I mean, those two names were jaw-dropping. Oh, one more guy, only the number one offensive line prospect from last year, who started as a freshman.
Caden Proctor, ladies and gentlemen. Caden Proctor is going to Iowa.
Why? I don't know.
It's funny how your dreams take you different places in the world these days with the transfer portal. I wanted to ask you specifically, Ohio State. Ryan Day was backed into a corner, the way I call it, after that loss to Missouri. He scored 3 points. Gloom and doom. Ohio State goes 11-2 for the second straight year. It's gloom and doom. I saw where you commented like a week or so ago about Ryan Day. This is a kind of a moment in time for him. I'm just paraphrasing, but he's on the hot seat as you can tell. But he has come out of the corner. He and Ohio State have come out of the corner throwing haymakers in January. I think you have to agree with that, right? The way they've restructured, rebuilt their roster, and then add Bill O'Brien to it, et cetera. Just what's your take of what's happened at Ohio State over the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine anybody having a worse November or December than Ryan Day, but he's winning January.
Yeah.
The only guy's won more in January, I think, is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
It's really remarkable. And I've always liked Ryan Day, but his losses to Michigan have gotten him in trouble, and I think that's fair to say. I don't really want to hear his record anymore. It's gaudy. But I think he's finally gone to double digits in losses, I think, Tim. But man, when you talk about Judkins, who was the best running back in the SEC a year ago, this year was a little weird at Ole Miss, and then you get Caleb Downs and Sayin. I mean, that is those are all world players, and that's in addition to everything else he's already done. And I think he had the number 2 or 3 recruiting class in the last cycle.
Right. It kind of got elevated with Julian Sayin joined the club, and he was already practicing with Alabama, wasn't the bowl game, and next thing you know, he's playing for Ohio State. But one of the lures there was Bill O'Brien, who he committed to along with Nick Saban. All of a sudden he's at Ohio State now, and it's amazing the serendipity that's kind of going on. But like you said, September through December upcoming will tell the tale, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of things are happening, and I don't know. I've seen some criticism even on Ohio State's AD selection. I happen to like the guy, Ross Bjork. Not that that's important to what we're talking about here, but it could be.
Yeah.
If this doesn't work out, but I said all those things about Ryan Day a week ago, and then my jaw dropped about 4 times in the last week just to see what he has done. And it's not only it's one thing to get these players. but Caleb Downs, to get him over Georgia is significant. Yeah. This is a guy who's Kirby Smart took to Tavarius Robinson, who was really his coach. It was his coach at Alabama. And everyone assumed Caleb Downs was going there. And that was really, and there's some people in Georgia that are genuinely shocked by losing that particular player.
Yeah. And then Ohio State has all these guys coming back who could have gone to the NFL or applied for the NFL draft, et cetera. You know, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Emeka Egbuka, right on down the line. I mean, Lathan Ransom. It's sometimes your biggest wins are keeping guys from leaving, right? And are going to the NFL.
And I don't think it takes any imagination to say Ohio State should be the preseason number one. I know everybody looks for someone. That's mine. And by the way, you could say that a lot of years. But I mean, it's remarkable. While Jim Harbaugh continues to shuttle back and forth between Atlanta and San Diego, I don't know what he's trying to figure out. One thing he ought to figure out is I don't want to go back to Michigan and have to deal with Ohio State next year.
Yeah, Ohio State and the NCAA. That's a double whammy.
Right.
Hey, real quick, before I ask you about Ross Bjork, what's your prediction or your forecast on Jim Harbaugh? Do you have one? Well, I mean, there's a sense that he is gone, right? But until it happens, right?
He has to be gone, and because I don't want to see him anymore. I did this mea culpa the day after the Rose Bowl, where I said it was I never made a bigger mistake in my life, and I'll now add to that. Just for clarification, I said that on national television on Greenberg's Get Up show.
Yeah.
I was sleep deprived. I got up early on Sunday morning in Pasadena. I went to the game, flew back overnight, didn't sleep, took a shower, and did that show. And so whatever I said about Jim Harbaugh, I have no recollection of whatsoever.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way you sneak out of something. That's a veteran move there, Paul. Hey, last thing, Ross Bjork. What you spoke of him earlier. What is impressive about? Because there are a lot of people, even on the Ohio State side. I mean, we a lot of us thought Pat Chun was a slam dunk guy from Washington State who's been at Ohio State before, knows everything about the place, et cetera. But Ted Carter, the new president of Ohio State, has made, in my opinion, a fairly bold move, bringing in Ross Bjork over, for one of another term, a native son, to Ohio State. But what stands out to you about Ross Bjork?
He's smart. He can be very calculating, which is good if you're an AD in today's world. And listen, I've read the criticism of him, and I'm not saying that Ross and I have never had problems. We have. But he's the kind of guy that will call you up and say, hey, you were wrong about this. And then you can figure it out from there. He was at Ole Miss, and I got to know him well, and got to know him even better at A&M. And, when you walk in Texas A&M, that is a monster place.
Yes.
And you got to deal with all the old guard, the new guard, and he did a fairly good job. I mean, you can say, well, he gave Jimbo Fisher an extension and had to pay him $75 million. Let me explain quickly. Previous athletic director, Scott Woodward, went to LSU. He was going to hire Jimbo Fisher. And at the time, we didn't realize what a fraud Jimbo Fisher was. And Ross Bjork said, okay, I'm going to keep him. It's going to cost me a lot of money. But he felt like I agreed with the decision at the time. It was pragmatic. It blew up in his face. It wasn't his money he had to pay. And you could fault him for that. But on the other hand, he did it for the right reason. Why any of these guys get these buyouts, I'll never know. But that was something that Ross Bjork was trying to preserve. At the time, it looked like Jimbo Fisher, fresh off the #1 recruiting class in the country, was about to turn that program around.
Yeah. And Ross Bjork at a place like Texas A&M, you kind of take orders, I mean, the movers and shakers wanted him and wanted to keep him and stuff. I mean, like I said, if you ever want to see something impressive, instead of going to Texas A&M's impressive football stadium, go to Easterwood Airport there on game days and look at the jets parked. It's crazy the influence that people have at that place, right?
Yeah, and Texas A&M is always a school that's trying to keep up with Texas, which is only the richest school in the country, and A&M's like the second or third richest. And so there's not much he's going to deal with at Ohio State that he hasn't dealt with. He's got great experience, and I like him. I know what people are saying. I read what Pat Forty said. Good for him. I was a columnist once. you got to find, I mean, by the way, since Pat wrote that, I think SI's gone out of business.
Yeah, exactly. Coinky Dink? Maybe not. Hey, last question for you. We'll get out of here on this. You talked about Ohio State. There's a good shot of them being number one. You know, there's good reason for them possibly being number one in the preseason polls or whatever we want to call these things. What is sort of your top five at the moment, do you think, coming back? I mean, because Georgia's lost a lot of guys, man, and go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's here's the hard part of that. I'm still not sure who's playing for Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can't put Alabama in the top five. I mean, I'd like Georgia, Ohio State. You'll have to help me on Michigan. It's hard to believe that they're still going to be.
Yeah, Michigan. They lost their quarterback. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So will I ever believe in Penn State? No. So I'll probably throw Texas in there.
Yeah.
I might struggle to come up with a top five right now.
Is Oregon, they got two good quarterbacks in the portal, not the least of which was Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. Does that, based on the way they played last year, I mean, the Big Ten could have a couple of top five teams, right? Isn't that funny to say? The Big Ten with Oregon?
Keeping Dan Lanning was maybe the most underappreciated thing, but he couldn't leave, I'm told, that there was too much Nike money involved. Because I think he was the guy that everyone thought was going to Alabama. So, I mean, the one thing I don't quote me on this, because I'm doing this live from the SEC headquarters, the SEC network headquarters.
There you go.
But the Big Ten has become a really good league. And I'm impressed. I mean, easiest thing in the world for a good old Southern boy like me or you to make fun of the Big Ten. I mean, Iowa's still a joke. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, but the fact that the goofy divisional thing's over with, we don't have to suffer through another Michigan / Ohio State Iowa game is good. And I think the Big Ten right now, with its TV packages and the four that they're taking in are really, I mean, they're in the same category as the SEC right now.
Hey, should it be changed real quick before you go? Should it be changed to the Power Two, the next two, and then the all you others? I mean, what should be?
I'm sitting right now about 14 miles from the ACC headquarters. I mean, I'm not sure what they're doing down there.
Yeah.
They're adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU. That moves the needle.
Yeah, that moves it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Big 12 is okay, but Colorado's not going to be that exciting for anybody, and all the Arizona schools who Arizona lost a really good coach and Frisch.
Yep.
So I mean, there are two conferences that matter, and really it's been that way for a while. Except that the Big Ten, through expansion, has really caught up.
Yeah.
The SEC only took two to your four, but we'll catch up to you eventually.
I got you. Ladies and gentlemen, the mouth from the South, Paul Finebaum. I mean, he always brings it no matter what. Paul, thanks for joining the Tim May Show again, my man.
Oh, that's the name of the show?
Yeah, that's the name of the show, the Tim May Show. Yeah, they reached out. Yeah.
Give Urban my best.
I will. You got it.